Ever get that feeling like there's more to things than meets the eye? I mean, like there are these secrets hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered.
Oh, definitely. I think we all get that itch to dig a little deeper sometimes, to go beyond the everyday and try to understand those bigger mysteries.
And today, we're going deep. We're tackling a mystery that has been around for, well, over a century. It's captivated imaginations and fueled countless debates.
A mystery that's right up our alley then.
Yep, we're diving into the enigma of the Black Knight satellite.
Now, this isn't just your typical UFO story. We're not talking about some blurry lights in the sky. This is something different.
It's a whole web of intriguing historical accounts, scientific speculation, and those persistent questions about, well, what else might be out there in space with us?
I mean, the core question here is this Black Knight really an ancient alien artifact? Is it out there silently watching over Earth? Or is there a simpler, a more down-to-earth explanation?
Could it be misidentified space junk? Or maybe some kind of secretive government project from way back?
Exactly. And to really get to the bottom of this, we have to go through a ton of information. We've got historical records, scientific studies, anecdotal accounts from all sorts of sources.
And honestly, that's what makes this deep dive so exciting, because when you start to piece together the timeline of all these encounters with this object, well, it's mind-blowing.
You realize we might be talking about something that predates humanity's official entry into the space age.
Yeah, possibly by decades. Maybe even centuries or millennia.
Right, and that's a truly fascinating and a little unsettling thought, isn't it?
It is. So let's rewind the clock. Let's go all the way back to 1899, to the very end of the 19th century, and to the legendary inventor Nikola Tesla.
Ah, yes. Now, while Tesla was in his Colorado Springs lab, he was doing all sorts of experiments with radio waves. And during these experiments, he detected something very, very strange.
Now, these weren't just any old radio signals, were they?
No, not at all. Tesla described them as pulsing, rhythmic, not from Earth. He actually even suggested they could be coming from Mars or from some other, advanced civilization out there in space.
So he was picking up on signals from another planet. That's incredible.
Well, that was his hypothesis, and it's important because this idea that there are unexplained signals coming from space, it really lays the foundation for the whole Black Knight narrative.
Yeah.
And to really grasp the strangeness, you have to understand that Tesla was working with a very specific type of signal.
Oh, how so?
He was picking up signals in a lower frequency band, one that was not commonly used for terrestrial broadcasts at that time.
Okay, so not your typical radio chatter.
No, not at all. And what made these signals even more unusual was their structure. They exhibited this complex repeating pattern that was totally unlike anything anyone had encountered before.
Yeah.
And that's what really led Tesla to believe that these signals might be coming from an intelligent source, potentially from beyond Earth.
I see. So we have Tesla picking up these strange signals. Okay, so now let's jump ahead a few decades. Let's go to 1954. Things start to get really interesting here.
Okay, so now we have Donald Keyhoe, a prominent UFO researcher at the time, coming onto the scene.
Now, what did he have to say about all this?
Well, Keyhoe made a pretty bold claim. He said that the U.S. Air Force was actually tracking not one, but two unknown satellites in orbit around the Earth.
Two unknown satellites. Okay. But this is 1954. We're talking years before Sputnik, right? Before anyone had officially launched anything into space.
Exactly. This is years before the Soviets launched Sputnik 1 in 1957, which is officially recognized as the first artificial satellite. So if Keyhoe's information was correct, well, then what exactly were those objects?
That is a great question. I mean, that definitely adds a whole other layer to this mystery.
It does. Because if there were unknown artificial objects in orbit before we officially entered the space age, well, that really challenges our understanding of the history of space exploration. It even makes you wonder if maybe those strange signals Tesla picked up decades earlier could have been coming from one of those objects.
Interesting. So we've got these unexplained signals, and now we've got reports of unknown satellites years before Sputnik.
Okay, but the story doesn't end there. Now we jump to 1960, and things get even more intriguing.
1960 seems to be a pivotal year in this whole Black Knight saga.
Why is that?
Because that's when the U.S. Navy reportedly captured photographic evidence of a dark, mysterious object in a polar orbit around the Earth.
Polar orbit, huh?
Yeah. Picture an orbit that takes an object over both the North and South poles with each pass. That's a polar orbit. Now, it was said to be completing about 15 orbits per day.
15 orbits a day, that seems like a lot. Yeah, it's faster than most satellites. And the reports described it as being unlike any known spacecraft at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't Soviet, and it wasn't American. And this is where the name Black Knight really starts to gain traction.
So this is the first time that name is used.
Pretty much. It becomes this catchy, mysterious label for this unknown object.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that this was a time of intense Cold War rivalry.
Yeah, space was the new frontier, the ultimate battleground.
Exactly. So the possibility of an unknown advanced spacecraft from some unknown origin, well, it really captured people's imaginations. Plus, there were these blurry images that were supposedly leaked from the Navy's observations.
Leaked images. Oh, that always adds fuel to the fire.
All right. And those images, even though blurry, really fueled public curiosity and speculation.
Yeah.
And then there's the detail about the polar orbit. That's a really key piece of the puzzle.
Okay, break that down for me. What's so special about a polar orbit?
Well, think about it. Most of the stuff we launch into space tends to stay closer to the equator. It's just more efficient that way.
Right.
But a polar orbit, this allows for a much broader view of the entire planet. Every single revolution takes the object over every point on Earth. It's a great orbit for observation, for surveillance.
I get it. So a polar orbit suggests a specific purpose. And for something to be in that kind of orbit for so long.
It raises questions. Because you see, natural debris, space junk, it doesn't just naturally fall into a stable polar orbit and stay there for decades.
Yeah.
That's highly improbable.
So the fact that this object was reported to be in a polar orbit, that really suggests it was put there intentionally.
It does, and that's what really makes the Black Knight so intriguing. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork with these early accounts, but now let's move into what some people call the alien sentinel narrative.
Okay, alien sentinel, what does that mean?
It's the idea that the Black Knight isn't just some random piece of space junk. It's a deliberate creation, a spacecraft of some kind, sent here to watch over Earth.
Like an extraterrestrial lookout post.
Exactly. And this part of the story really pushes the timeline back even further, making the mystery even deeper.
Oh, how so?
Well, in 1973, a Scottish study claimed to have successfully decoded those original radio signals that Tesla picked up way back in 1899.
Wait, decoded Tesla's signals? What did they find?
They claimed that the signals contained a star map, a map pointing to a specific star system.
Which star system?
Epsilon Boötis, a star in the constellation Bootes. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. This study suggested that the signals, and therefore the potential source of the signals, could be around 13,000 years old.
13,000 years? You're kidding.
Nope, not kidding. If that's true, we're talking about a technological artifact that predates recorded human history by a huge margin.
So, according to this theory, this probe, this alien satellite, has been silently orbiting Earth since the last ice age.
That's the picture this study paints, and it's a pretty incredible picture. And this idea that we're not alone and haven't been for a very long time, well, it resonates with a lot of people.
I can see why. I mean, that's a huge shift in perspective. We're not just talking about UFO sightings anymore. We're talking about the possibility of advanced civilizations existing long before our own. Civilizations that might have even visited Earth.
Right. It turns the Black Knight into a potential archaeological find, a relic from a lost chapter in Earth's history, and maybe even a clue to the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Okay, so we've got this ancient probe theory. But is there anything else that supports this alien sentinel idea?
Well, there are reports from astronauts, from both the Gemini and Space Shuttle missions. Astronauts who claim to have encountered strange objects shadowing their spacecraft while in orbit.
Objects that couldn't be explained.
Right. Objects that seem to defy conventional explanation. Now, of course, many of these sightings have been attributed to more mundane causes, space debris, reflections, things like that.
Sure, that makes sense.
But the persistence of these reports, the fact that astronauts kept seeing things they couldn't explain, well, it adds to the mystery.
It keeps the alien sentinel hypothesis alive. So it wasn't just visual sightings. I mean, there were reports of radio signals too, weren't there?
Yes. In the 1970s, there were ham radio operators who claimed to be picking up strange signals. Eerie beeps, they called them. And these beeps, they said, matched the same pulsing patterns that Tesla had documented decades earlier.
Independent verification of Tesla's findings.
You could say that. These amateur radio operators, they weren't scientists. They weren't part of any government program.
So they had no reason to make stuff up.
Right. And their reports, along with the astronaut accounts of the 1973 study, well, they all contribute to this idea that there's something unusual out there, something that's been generating these strange signals for a very long time.
Okay, now fast forward to more recent
Yeah.
times. What about the photographic evidence from the 1998 STS-88 space shuttle mission?
Ah, yes. This is where we see a clear split in explanations. The images from that mission, they supposedly show the Black Knight once again.
And what does NASA say about these images?
They say it's just a thermal blanket, a piece of debris that was lost during a spacewalk on that very same mission.
A lost thermal blanket, huh?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the photos, it's not that implausible. It's a dark, irregularly shaped object. It could be a thermal blanket.
Sure, it could be.
But of course, for people who believe in the Black Knight, that explanation isn't good enough. They argue that this object has been seen and tracked for decades.
So it can't just suddenly be a thermal blanket from a 1998 mission.
Exactly. And they see this as an attempt to dismiss or cover up something truly extraordinary. And it highlights the central tension surrounding this whole mystery.
The tension between the believers and the skeptics, between the extraordinary and the ordinary.
Exactly. It's a clash of worldviews, really. Okay, so we've talked about the alien sentinel idea, but are there other theories out there trying to explain the Black Knight?
Other theories, like what?
Well, there are those who still believe in an extraterrestrial explanation. But maybe it's not a long-term surveillance device. Maybe it's something else.
Okay, so still alien, but a different purpose. Like what?
Well, some people speculate it could be an ancient interstellar probe, a relic from a long-gone civilization.
Like a cosmic message in a bottle.
Exactly, a message that we just haven't figured out how to read yet.
Sure.
Or maybe it's a piece of technology from a more recent alien encounter.
An encounter that's being kept secret.
Right. Maybe it's even some kind of automated warning beacon.
A beacon warning us about something.
Or trying to tell us something. We just don't know. And then there's the persistent connection to Tesla.
Yeah, his name keeps popping up in all of this.
Right. I mean, some theories suggest that he didn't just passively detect those signals. Maybe he actually interacted with them somehow.
Tesla talking to aliens.
Some people believe that. There are even more fringe ideas that say maybe Tesla himself built and launched the Black Knight using some incredibly advanced lost technology.
That's pretty far out there.
It is. Okay, so we've got all these alien theories, but what about the skeptics? What did they say about the Black Knight?
You know, the more down-to-earth folks...
Right. Well, they tend to focus on misidentification and more prosaic explanations.
Prosaic, meaning...
Meaning more ordinary.
Yeah.
Like maybe those early reports of unknown satellites were actually just misidentified human-made objects.
Okay, like what kind of objects?
Well, maybe it was early, uncatalogued satellites or fragments of rocket boosters.
Sure.
Or maybe it was just regular space debris that was being tracked with less sophisticated technology back then.
Makes sense. And the 1960 Navy photos.
Skeptics would say that those could be optical illusions or misinterpretations of radar data.
And the 1998 sighting.
Well, as we said, that's officially explained as a lost thermal blanket.
Okay, so misidentification or just plain old space junk. But what about those radio signals?
Well, skeptics often point out that radio waves can be tricky. They can bounce around the atmosphere, be distorted, come from unexpected sources.
So what might sound like an alien signal could actually be something totally mundane.
Exactly. Especially back in Tesla's time when the technology was much less advanced.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so we've got all these different theories. But let's talk about the evidence. What do we actually have to go on here?
Well, the 1960 Navy photos are definitely a big piece of the puzzle.
The blurry, leaked photos.
Yeah. But the fact that they were initially classified only adds to the mystery for a lot of people.
Because it feeds into that whole government cover-up idea.
Right. And for many, those photos are seen as proof that there really was something unusual out there, something that the government didn't want the public to know about.
Okay, and what about that? I get it. You know, it's kind of funny, but it seems like the lack of official explanation, the silence from NASA and other space agencies, is actually what fuels a lot of the speculation.
That's true. It's a common pattern. When official sources are silent or dismissive, well, it creates a void. And that void is often filled by alternative explanations, by conspiracy theories.
Because people want answers, and if they don't get them from official channels, they'll look for them elsewhere.
Exactly. And, you know, even NASA's explanation about the 1998 images being a thermal blanket, well, for some people, that's just not enough. They see it as a convenient way to dismiss something that they believe is much more significant.
So, a cover-up. Let's go back to that polar orbit for a second. We've talked about it a bit, but why is that detail so important?
It's important because, as we said before, a stable polar orbit, that's not something that just happens naturally. especially not for decades.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy and precise maneuvering to maintain that kind of orbit.
And that suggests intention, design.
Right. It means that someone or something put it there for a reason. It wasn't just a random event.
So it's another piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite fit with the simplest explanations.
It does. Okay, now think about the online world. I mean, there's a whole universe of information and discussion out there about the Black Knight.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge topic in UFO and conspiracy theory circles.
Exactly. You'll find all sorts of websites, forums, social media groups dedicated to collecting and analyzing every scrap of information about the Black Knight.
These are the believers, the ones who are convinced there's something extraterrestrial going on.
Right. But then you also have groups who are dedicated to debunking those claims, to offering more rational explanations.
The skeptics.
Exactly. They meticulously analyze the photos, the historical records, and they apply scientific principles to try and explain things in a more conventional way.
So it's a real battleground of ideas.
It is. A clash between different ways of seeing the world and interpreting evidence. Okay, and one final point about the evidence. Despite all the alleged sightings and tracking data, no one has ever officially claimed to have retrieved the Black Knight.
I mean, if it's really out there, why hasn't anyone gone and grabbed it?
Well, there are the obvious logistical challenges. It's expensive, it's technically difficult to intercept and capture an object in a high and potentially unstable orbit.
That makes sense.
But for those who suspect a cover-up, well, the lack of retrieval only adds to their suspicions.
Because they think, well, maybe it has been retrieved, but they're just not telling us.
Right. It becomes part of the larger narrative of secrecy and hidden knowledge. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let me ask you this. Why should our listeners care about this whole Black Knight mystery?
Why should they care?
Because it gets to the heart of some really big questions. Are we alone in the universe? Have we been visited by other civilizations in the past?
The big questions, the existential questions.
Exactly. And the Black Knight story, whether it's true or not, forces us to confront those questions. It makes us think about our place in the cosmos and what might be out there beyond our understanding.
And it's just a fascinating story, even if you're not a diehard UFO believer. I mean, it's got history, it's got science, it's got mystery.
Right. It's a story that blends fact and fiction, science and speculation. It's a puzzle with missing pieces, a mystery without a clear solution. And that's what makes it so compelling.
And it's been around for so long. Over a century of reports and sightings, it keeps getting re-examined, reinterpreted.
Yeah, it's a story that refuses to die.
And that's because, at its core, it's about the unknown. It's about the possibility that there's more out there than we currently understand.
And that possibility, that's what keeps people fascinated.
So as we finish up, we're left with this shadowy, mysterious object in orbit, the Black Knight satellite. Its origins, unknown. Its purpose, unknown.
Is it an alien sentinel silently watching over Earth? Is it a lost piece of Tesla's genius? Or is it just a collection of misidentified events and space debris that have been woven into a compelling legend?
We don't have the answers, but the fact that we're still asking these questions after all this time, that tells you something.
It does. It tells you that the mystery of the Black Knight satellite continues to capture our imaginations. It makes us wonder about what else might be out there, hidden in the vastness of space, just waiting to be discovered.
Maybe the silence of the Black Knight, if it is indeed silent, is the most profound message of all.
You know, that's a really interesting thought. I mean, what if the very fact that we haven't definitively solved this mystery, what if that's the real message? What if it's a challenge, a cosmic riddle, urging us to keep searching, keep questioning, and to always be open to the possibility that there's more to the universe than we currently know?
That's something to think about. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into the mysteries of the unknown.